The crystal walls of the council chamber sparkled with soft blue light as the 12 most powerful beings in the galaxy took their seats. Veltar, whose body looked like living glass filled with swirling stars, raised one translucent hand. The massive room fell silent. "Council session begins," Veltar announced. His voice echoed through the chamber like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Today we discuss trade routes, mining rights, and one new discovery." Around the circular table sat creatures that would have amazed any human. Morden looked like a giant octopus with purple skin and golden eyes. His tentacles moved constantly as he sorted through data tablets. Kethral resembled a praying mantis the size of a human, but with silver armor covering his insect body. His compound eyes reflected the chamber's lights like tiny mirrors. For 3,000 years, these beings had ruled the galaxy. They decided which species could trade, which planets could be settled, and how new civilizations would join their great empire. Every week they met to handle the business of controlling 1,000,000 worlds. "First item," Veltar continued, "the mining dispute between the Vega colonies and the Centauri traders." The discussion that followed was boring and routine. Two alien species argued about who could dig for rare metals on a distant asteroid belt. The council listened, made a decision, and moved on. They had handled thousands of similar problems before. "Next item," Veltar said after an hour of tedious debate. "Integration of a newly discovered species." This was more interesting. Morden's tentacles danced across his control panel, and a three-dimensional image appeared above the table. It showed a small blue and green planet orbiting a yellow star. "The species calls their world Earth," Morden explained. "They live in the 7th sector, grid reference G. We discovered them 6 months ago during routine expansion surveys." The image zoomed in to show the planet's surface. Cities sparkled with electric lights. Roads connected settlements across continents. Primitive spacecraft orbited the world like tiny metal insects. "Typical Tier 3 civilization," Morden continued. "They achieved basic spaceflight recently. Their technology is crude but developing. Population approximately 8 billion individuals." Kethral leaned forward, his mandibles clicking. "What about their nature? Are they peaceful? Aggressive?" "Mixed," Morden replied. "They show typical primitive behavior. Tribal conflicts, resource competition, territorial disputes. Nothing unusual for their development level." The council members nodded. They had seen this pattern many times before. Young civilizations always fought among themselves until the council brought them order and guidance. "Physical characteristics?" asked Hexta, a warrior from the Rim worlds. Her scaled hide was scarred from countless battles, and her yellow eyes held no warmth. "Small bipeds," Morden said. "Average height 1.7 meters. Weak compared to most species. Short lifespans of less than 100 years. They appear to be mammalian." Several council members made sounds of amusement. Hexta's laugh sounded like rocks grinding together. "Mammals," she snorted. "Soft and weak. Probably cry when separated from their young." "Their technology," Veltar asked. "Primitive fusion power, basic computers, chemical rockets," Morden listed. "They recently developed faster-than-light communication, but cannot yet travel between stars efficiently. We estimate they are at least 50 years behind standard integration requirements." Dr. Lethes, whose body resembled a walking tree with glowing fruit for eyes, spoke in a voice like rustling leaves. "Recommendation? Standard junior membership," Morden replied without hesitation. "Restricted trade access, limited technology sharing, supervised development program. They should be grateful for our guidance." The council discussed the humans like farmers talking about new livestock. They would offer Earth basic membership in their empire. The humans would receive some advanced technology and protection from hostile aliens. In return, they would mine resources for the council, provide soldiers for council wars, and accept permanent second-class status in galactic civilization. "Who will make first contact?" Veltar asked. "I volunteer," Kethral said, spreading his forearms in a gesture of acceptance. "I have experience with primitive species. The humans will be simple to handle." "Excellent," Veltar agreed. "Location?" "Nexus Prime," Kethral suggested. "Neutral space, impressive architecture, good facilities for recording historic moments." Nexus Prime was the galaxy's greatest space station. It floated in empty space between star systems, serving as the Council's diplomatic headquarters. The massive structure was designed to awe visiting species with its size and beauty. First-time visitors usually felt overwhelmed by the Council's obvious power and wealth. "Timeline?" Dr. Lethes asked. 3 weeks, Kethril replied. That gives us time to prepare the standard welcome ceremony. I will explain their new position in galactic civilization and present the integration contract. The council members approved with various gestures and sounds. They had performed this ritual hundreds of times. A new species would be discovered, evaluated, and absorbed into the Empire. The species always accepted because they had no choice. The Council's military power was overwhelming and their technology was irresistible. Any objections? Veltar asked formally. None came. The humans would join the Empire whether they wanted to or not. Motion approved, Veltar announced. Ambassador Kethril will initiate first contact with species designation humans at Nexus Prime in 3 weeks. The Council moved on to other business. They discussed food shipments, patrol schedules, and construction projects. The humans were already forgotten, just another routine addition to their vast empire. None of the Council members noticed the small object attached to Nexus Prime's outer hull. It looked like a piece of space debris, dark and irregular. In reality, it was a highly advanced monitoring device. It had been recording their conversation with perfect clarity. The device had been watching the Council for months. It transmitted everything back to its creators through quantum channels that Council technology could not detect or intercept. The beings who built it knew about the Council's empire, their integration process, and their true intentions toward new species. As the Council session ended and the mighty aliens departed for their home worlds, the small probe continued its silent vigil. Its creators had been preparing for this moment for a very long time. The galaxy was about to discover that some species did not accept subjugation quietly. Some species prepared for war instead of surrender, and some species had been watching and learning while the Council assumed they were primitive and helpless. The humans were coming to Nexus Prime, but they would not come as supplicants begging for membership. They would come as equals demanding respect, and they would bring weapons that would make the Council reconsider everything they thought they knew about primitive species from small blue planets. Captain Dongmin stared at the encrypted message on his command screen. The bridge of the UES Sol hummed with quiet activity around him, but he felt completely alone. The message had arrived through quantum channels from Earth Command, marked with the highest security codes humanity possessed. Sir, Lieutenant Haijin approached his chair. As the ship's xenosociologist, she had been studying alien civilizations for 3 years. Her dark eyes showed concern at his expression. Is everything all right? Dongmin handed her the message tablet. Read this. Tell me what you think. Heejin's face grew pale as she scrolled through the intelligence report. The Sol had been exploring the galaxy's edge for 6 months, making peaceful contact with isolated alien settlements. They had thought they were humanity's first ambassadors to the stars. They were wrong. Captain, this can't be real, Heejin whispered. They've been watching us? For months? The message contained transcripts of alien conversations. A galactic government called the Council had discovered Earth and classified humans as a primitive species. They planned to offer humanity junior membership in their empire, which meant permanent servitude disguised as friendship. Keep reading, Dongmin said grimly. The intelligence came from stealth probes that humanity had secretly deployed throughout the galaxy. While the world thought the Sol was humanity's first interstellar mission, the truth was more complex. Earth had been preparing for this moment for over a decade. Heejin gasped as she reached the analysis section. They want to mine our resources, recruit our soldiers, and keep us as second-class citizens forever. This isn't first contact, it's colonization. Now you understand, Dongmin said. He opened a secure channel to Earth. The quantum communicator crackled to life and Admiral Boram's weathered face appeared on screen. Captain Dongmin, the Admiral said without preamble. You've read the intelligence report. What's your assessment? It's a trap, Admiral, Dongmin replied. This council doesn't want allies. They want subjects. Admiral Boram nodded. Our analysts reached the same conclusion. Dr. Heejin, your opinion on their psychology? Heejin stepped into view of the camera. Admiral, based on the intercepted conversations, they view us like children or pets. They don't consider us capable of independent thought or development. They've done this hundreds of times before. Can we refuse their offer? Dongmin asked. Not without consequences, Boram replied. Intelligence suggests they have massive military forces. If we say no, they'll simply take what they want by force. The implications were staggering. Humanity had finally reached the stars, only to discover they were late to a party where all the other guests were bullies and conquerors. "What are our options?" Heejin asked. Admiral Boram's expression hardened. "We show them they've misjudged us. Captain, you're being reassigned. Report to Luna Base immediately." 3 days later, Dongmin stood in the observation deck of Luna Base and watched history being made. The massive doors of Hangar 7 slowly opened, revealing something that should have been impossible. The UES Titan's shadow emerged from its hidden construction bay like a sleeping giant awakening. The ship was 15 kilometers long, its black hull absorbing light like a hole in space. Weapon ports lined its sides, and launch bays could accommodate entire fleets of smaller vessels. Impressive, isn't it? Admiral Yujin joined him at the viewing window. She had overseen the ship's construction in complete secrecy for the past 5 years. "How did we build this without anyone knowing?" Dongmin asked. "Asteroid mining operations provided the materials," Yujin explained. "The hull was assembled in sections at different facilities throughout the solar system. The final assembly happened here in a hangar the public thinks is used for cargo storage. And the crew? 50,000 volunteers from every nation on Earth. They've been training in secret for 2 years. The best pilots, engineers, soldiers, and scientists humanity has ever produced." Captain Tejo approached them, his uniform bearing the insignia of the Titan's shadow. He was a veteran of the Mars colonial wars, where humanity had learned harsh lessons about fighting in space. "Admiral Yujin, the ship is ready for deployment," he reported. "All systems operational, crew at stations." "Excellent, Captain," Yujin replied. "Your mission parameters?" "Proceed to Nexus Prime and attend the Council's first contact meeting," Tejo recited. "Represent humanity as equals, not subjects. Make it clear that we will not accept subjugation." "And if they refuse to treat us as equals?" Dongmin asked. Tejo's smile was cold. "Then they learn why humans survived on a planet full of predators, wars, and natural disasters for thousands of years." Commander Subin joined the group. She was humanity's leading expert on alien warfare tactics, having studied every available piece of intelligence about galactic conflicts. "The psychological impact should be significant," she reported. "According to our data, the Council hasn't seen a military vessel of this class in over 1,000 years. Most galactic species have become complacent under Council rule." "Will it be enough?" Admiral Yujin asked. "The ship sends a message," Subin replied. "We're not the helpless primitives they think we are. We've been preparing for this meeting since we first detected their surveillance." As they watched, the Titan's shadow completed its departure from Luna Base. The massive ship moved with surprising grace, its advanced engines producing no visible exhaust. It aligned itself with the coordinates for Nexus Prime and activated its faster-than-light drive. "Captain Dongmin," Admiral Yujin said, "you'll accompany the diplomatic mission aboard the Sol. Your exploration data will be valuable for our negotiations." "What kind of negotiations?" Dongmin asked. "The kind where we explain that humanity doesn't need the Council's permission to exist," Yujin replied. "We'll offer them trade agreements and mutual defense pacts between equals. If they refuse, they'll discover that humans can be very unfriendly neighbors." Admiral Boram's voice crackled through the communication system. "All ships, this is Earth Command. You are authorized to depart for Nexus Prime. Show them what humanity is capable of when we work together." As the small fleet headed toward their rendezvous with galactic civilization, Earth's population remained unaware of the historic moment unfolding. The news would come later, after humanity had established its position among the stars. In his quarters aboard the Sol, Dongmin reviewed the intelligence reports one more time. The Council expected grateful primitives who would accept any terms offered. Instead, they would meet humans who had spent decades preparing for this exact scenario. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity had evolved on a dangerous world. They had survived ice ages, volcanic eruptions, asteroid impacts, and countless wars. They had developed technology through necessity and conflict, not peaceful contemplation. Most importantly, they had learned never to trust anyone who claimed to be offering help while demanding submission in return. The Council thought they were meeting children. They were about to discover they had found warriors. The emergency alarm echoed through the Council chamber for the first time in over 300 years. Feltar's crystalline form flickered with agitated light patterns as the 12 most powerful beings in the galaxy gathered for an unprecedented crisis session. Explain the situation immediately, Veltar demanded as soon as the last council member took their seat. Ambassador Kethral's image appeared on the central display, transmitted from Nexus Prime. His usually composed insectoid features showed clear signs of distress. Behind him, through the station's viewing portal, the massive human warship dominated the starfield like a dark mountain. Honored Council, Kethral began, his voice shaking. The first contact with humanity has not proceeded according to protocol. What do you mean? Dr. Lithas asked, her tree-like form rustling with concern. Did they refuse our generous offer? They dictated terms to us, Kethral replied. The humans arrived in a military vessel that dwarfs our largest battleships. Their captain rejected our integration package and demanded recognition as an independent galactic power. The council chamber erupted in shocked voices speaking 12 different languages. Hexta's scaled fist slammed onto the table with enough force to crack the stone surface. Impossible, the warrior roared. No primitive species possesses such capability. Your sensors must be malfunctioning. I wish they were, Kethral replied, but I have verified the readings multiple times. The human vessel measures 15 kilometers in length and is heavily armed with weapons of unknown design. Morden's tentacles writhed in agitation as he accessed his databanks. This contradicts all our intelligence. Our surveys classified them as barely capable of interstellar travel. Send me the tactical data, Military Coordinator Hexta demanded. I want to see these supposed weapons. Kethral transmitted the scans of the Titan's shadow. The room fell silent as the council members studied the specifications. The ship's size alone was staggering, but its weapon systems were what truly alarmed them. These energy signatures, Hexta muttered, her warrior's experience interpreting the readings. These aren't the crude projectile weapons we expected. These are directed energy systems with power outputs that rival our heaviest siege cannons. How many ships like this do they possess? Feltar asked. Unknown, Kethral replied. The humans have revealed nothing about their fleet strength, but Captain Tejo's confidence suggests this vessel is not unique. Dr. Lithas leaned forward, her glowing fruit eyes pulsing with concern. What did their captain say exactly? Kethral played back the recording of his meeting with Captain Tejo. The council listened in growing alarm as the human military officer calmly rejected their authority and demanded equal treatment. He knew about our integration procedures, Morden observed. Specific details that are classified at the highest levels. How could a primitive species obtain such information? They've been watching us, Hexta growled, gathering intelligence while we assumed they were helpless. This was planned. The implications were staggering. If humanity had been monitoring council activities for an extended period, they knew far more about galactic civilization than any emerging species in recorded history. Worse, they had used that knowledge to prepare for this exact confrontation. Show me their proposed terms, Veltar ordered. The human demands appeared on the chamber's central display. The council members read in stunned silence. Humanity wanted trade agreements between equals, mutual defense pacts, and the right to develop their technology without council oversight. They offered to share certain innovations in exchange for access to galactic markets and scientific knowledge. These are the demands of an established power, Dr. Lithas observed. Not a primitive species seeking membership. They're treating us like equals, another council member protested. This is unprecedented. Hexta studied the tactical displays with growing respect and concern. Look at the design philosophy of their ship. It's built for extended operations far from support bases. The weapon placement suggests they've studied fleet combat tactics extensively. This isn't a primitive vessel. This is a warship designed by a species that understands conflict. But how? Morden demanded. Our surveys showed a peaceful planet with standard developing civilization markers. We made assumptions, Veltar admitted grudgingly. We saw what we expected to see rather than what was actually there. The emergency session continued for hours as more intelligence arrived from various sources. Long-range sensors detected human installations throughout their local stellar region. The infrastructure was far more extensive than initial surveys had indicated. Hidden shipyards, mining operations, and communication networks suggested a civilization that had been expanding into space for much longer than anyone had realized. They've been hiding their true capabilities, Dr. Lithas concluded. While we observed their planet's surface, they were building an interstellar infrastructure in secret. But why? Another council member asked. Why hide from us if they possessed this level of technology? Captain Tejo's recorded words provided the answer. When someone offers to help you while pointing a gun at your head, they're not really offering help. The humans had studied the Council's integration procedures and recognized them for what they truly were: sophisticated colonialism disguised as benevolent guidance. Instead of submitting or fleeing, they had prepared for war. "What are our options?" Veltar asked. "We could mobilize the fleet," Hexta suggested. "Overwhelming force has always worked before." "Against how many ships?" Dr. Lithis asked. "If they built one vessel of this class, they likely built others. And they've had years to study our tactical doctrines while we knew nothing about theirs." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. For 3,000 years, the Council had faced only primitive species that could be easily overwhelmed or corrupted civilizations that could be diplomatically manipulated. They had never encountered a species that had prepared specifically to resist Council authority. "There's another factor," Morden added reluctantly. "If we attack humanity and fail to achieve quick victory, other species will notice. Several of our member civilizations have been questioning their integration agreements recently. A successful human resistance could inspire wider rebellion. The greatest fear of any empire was becoming visible as fallible. The Council's power rested on the assumption that resistance was impossible. If humanity proved that assumption wrong, the entire galactic order could collapse. What do you recommend?" Veltar asked Kethral. "I believe we should consider their proposal," the ambassador replied. "They're offering genuine cooperation rather than demanding conquest. We could maintain face by presenting this as a new form of advanced membership." "You want us to negotiate with primitives?" Hexta snarled. "I want us to avoid a war that might destroy the Empire," Kethral replied. "The humans are not primitives. We made a critical error in assessment, and now we must adapt to new circumstances." Veltar's crystalline form pulsed with agitated patterns as he considered the options. "Accept human demands and risk appearing weak to other species. Reject them and risk a conflict that might reveal the Council's military limitations. We will reconvene in 72 hours, Veltar announced. All Council members will review the human proposal and prepare recommendations. This session is adjourned. As the alien leaders departed, each grappled with the same disturbing realization. The galaxy had just become a more complicated place. For the first time in millennia, the Council faced a species that refused to be conquered, absorbed, or intimidated. Through the communication link, Kethral watched the human warship maintain its position near Nexus Prime. Its presence served as a constant reminder that some species chose to meet galactic civilization on their own. The age of unchallenged Council dominance was ending, and nobody knew what would replace it. 3 months after the first encounter at Nexus Prime, the Council chamber looked very different. A new seat had been added to the circular table, occupied by Ambassador Minho of Earth. His presence marked the first time in galactic history that a species had joined the Council as equals rather than subjects. Veltar called the session to order, his crystalline form reflecting the chamber's lights in patterns that seemed less confident than before. "We convene today to address the changes in galactic governance following humanity's integration." The word integration carried new meaning now. Instead of the traditional process of subjugation disguised as membership, humanity had negotiated a genuine alliance. They maintained complete sovereignty over their territory, while participating in Council decisions as full voting members. "First item," Veltar continued, "the establishment of human patrol zones and fleet deployments." Admiral Tejo, promoted after his successful handling of first contact, appeared on the communication display from the bridge of the Titan's shadow. Behind him, the massive ship's command center bustled with activity from the multi-species crew that now included several alien observers. "Honored Council," Tejo reported, "the first human fleet has completed deployment to assigned patrol sectors. The Titan's Shadow, Rising Phoenix, and Iron Will are operational and maintaining peace in the Outer Rim territories." The 3 ships represented humanity's public military strength, though Council intelligence suspected more vessels remained hidden in human space. Captain So Young commanded the Rising Phoenix with the same professional competence that had impressed alien observers. Captain Jaewu led the Iron Will, which had recently prevented a pirate raid on a Centauri mining colony. "Any incidents to report?" Dr. Lithis asked. 2 minor engagements with raiders," Tejo replied. "Both resolved without casualties among defending forces. The raiders' vessels were disabled and crews turned over to local authorities. Hexta leaned forward, her scarred features showing grudging respect. What was the outcome of the interrogations? Interesting intelligence, Tejo replied. The raiders possessed detailed information about Council patrol schedules and defensive positions. Someone has been selling classified information to criminal organizations. Several Council members shifted uncomfortably. The efficiency of human military operations had exposed weaknesses in Council security that had existed for years. Where alien forces had failed to stop increasing pirate activity, human ships had ended the problem within weeks. We will investigate, Veltar promised. Ambassador Minho spoke for the first time in the session. His voice carried the quiet authority of someone representing a species that had proven themselves in combat. Earth offers to assist with internal security reviews. Our intelligence services have identified several potential vulnerabilities in Council communication networks. The offer was polite but carried clear implications. Humanity had demonstrated capabilities in espionage and signals intelligence that exceeded anything the Council possessed. Their original monitoring of Council activities had been just the beginning. Moving to the next item, Veltar said, request for renegotiation of existing integration agreements. This was the Council's greatest fear made manifest. 7 different species had formally requested modifications to their membership terms. Inspired by humanity's example, the Altarian Republic wanted the same military autonomy that Earth enjoyed. The Vega Confederacy demanded the right to develop their own technology without Council oversight. The Andromedans have submitted a particularly comprehensive proposal, Dr. Lythes reported. They want complete revision of their mining agreements and the right to establish independent colonies. These demands are unacceptable, protested Council member Zorthan, whose species had grown wealthy from Andromedan mineral exports. The existing agreements are fair and beneficial to all parties. Ambassador Minho consulted his data tablet. Actually, analysis of the current Andromedan mining agreements shows a resource extraction rate that would deplete their home system within 200 years. The compensation they receive covers less than 30% of market value for the materials. The human ambassador's calm recitation of facts was devastating. Humanity had not only studied Council military capabilities, but had also analyzed the economic structures that maintained the empire. Their findings revealed systematic exploitation that had continued for centuries. Earth proposes a new model for galactic relations, Minho continued. Voluntary cooperation between sovereign equals rather than hierarchical control. Species that want Council protection and guidance can request it. Those that prefer independence can develop on their own terms. Chaos, Morden protested. Without central authority, the galaxy will fragment into competing factions. Will it? Minho asked. Or will it develop into a community of allied species working together by choice rather than compulsion? Captain Dongmin's voice crackled through the communication system from the outer rim. His exploration vessel, the Soul, had made contact with 17 new species in the past 3 months. All of them had been hiding from Council expansion, preferring isolation to subjugation. Council members, Dongmin reported, the galaxy is much larger and more populated than we previously believed. There are hundreds of species that have avoided contact with your empire. They're willing to participate in voluntary alliances but refuse to accept subordinate status. The revelation stunned the Council. Their empire, which they had believed encompassed most of galactic civilization, was actually just one political entity among many. The broader galaxy was full of species that had chosen independence over security. What do they offer in return for alliance? Veltar asked. Technology, resources, knowledge, and military cooperation, Dongmin replied. Several species possess scientific capabilities that exceed Council standards. They've been developing in isolation for millennia. Ambassador Minho activated a holographic display showing the galaxy's true political situation. The Council's empire occupied less than 40% of inhabited space. Independent species controlled vast regions that remained unexplored by Council surveys. Humanity proposes the formation of the Galactic Alliance, Minho announced. A voluntary association of sovereign species working together for mutual benefit. Council species can join while maintaining their existing relationships. Independent species can participate without surrendering autonomy. The proposal was revolutionary. Instead of one empire dominating the galaxy, There would be a confederation of equals. Species could choose their level of participation based on their own needs and preferences. And if we refuse? Hexta asked. Then you continue as before, Minho replied. But you do so knowing that half the galaxy has chosen a different path. Isolation is no longer an option for any of us. Veltar's crystalline form pulsed with complex light patterns as he processed the implications. The Council could maintain their empire over species that accepted hierarchical control. But they would no longer be the only major power in the galaxy. We will need time to consider this proposal, Veltar said. Of course, Minho agreed. Earth is prepared to wait. We've learned patience from watching the galaxy for so long. As the session adjourned, each council member grappled with the new reality. The galaxy had become a much more complex place than any of them had imagined. The age of simple dominance was ending, replaced by an era of negotiation, cooperation, and genuine diplomacy. Ambassador Minho gathered his materials and prepared to leave the chamber. As he walked past the other delegates, several approached him quietly. The Altarian representative whispered a request for technical assistance. The Vegan delegate asked about establishing direct trade relations with Earth. The revolution was already beginning, not through conquest or rebellion, but through the simple act of offering species a choice. Humanity had shown that it was possible to join galactic civilization without surrendering dignity or independence. In the docking bay, Captain Tejo waited beside a human shuttle. How did it go, Ambassador? Better than expected, Minho replied. Change is coming to the galaxy whether the Council accepts it or not. We've given everyone a glimpse of what's possible when species work together as equals. As their shuttle departed Nexus Prime, the Titan's shadow moved into escort position. The massive warship's presence no longer seemed threatening to most observers. Instead, it represented protection for those who chose cooperation over domination. The galaxy was entering a new age, and humanity had become its unlikely catalyst. Not through conquest or intimidation, but by refusing to accept that strength meant submission, and civilization meant slavery. The stars themselves seemed brighter as news of the Galactic Alliance spread to every corner of inhabited space. For the first time in millennia, species had a choice about their future among the stars. Ambassador Kethral adjusted his ceremonial robes and checked the first contact chamber one final time. Everything was perfect. The lighting was warm and welcoming. The furniture was arranged to show the Council's benevolent authority. Fresh flowers from a dozen worlds filled the air with pleasant scents. The humans should arrive within the hour, his aide announced. The younger insectoid nervously polished his carapace with his lower arms. Are you prepared for the ceremony? Of course, Kethral replied with confidence. I have performed this ritual over 200 times. Primitive species are always the same. They arrive in crude ships, stare at our technology in wonder, and gratefully accept whatever we offer them. He had spent the morning reviewing his prepared speech. It was a masterpiece of diplomatic language that made subjugation sound like a generous gift. The humans would leave Nexus Prime believing they had joined galactic civilization as honored members, never realizing they had just signed away their freedom. Sir, the station sensors are detecting an approaching vessel, a technician reported. Human identification confirmed. Kethral activated the viewing portal that looked out into space. He expected to see a small primitive spacecraft struggling with basic faster-than-light travel. Instead, his compound eyes widened in shock. Something massive was decelerating from faster-than-light speed with perfect control. The ship's hull was black as deep space, and it seemed to absorb the light from nearby stars. As it drew closer, Kethral realized the vessel was larger than anything he had ever seen. What is that thing? His aide whispered. The ship was 15 kilometers long and 3 kilometers wide. Its hull showed no seams or construction joints, as if it had been grown rather than built. Weapon ports lined its sides in neat rows, each one large enough to house the main guns of a Council battleship. Launch bays gaped open along its flanks, revealing smaller vessels that were themselves larger than most exploration ships. That cannot be human, Kethral said in disbelief. Our intelligence report said they were primitive. The massive warship took position near Nexus Prime with casual ease. Its engines produced no visible exhaust, suggesting advanced gravitational manipulation technology. The ship's very presence made the station feel small and vulnerable. Sir, we're receiving a communication request, the technician reported. His voice shook with fear. Put it through, Kethrall ordered, though his own confidence was rapidly evaporating. The communication screen activated, showing a human face. The man wore a military uniform with insignia that meant nothing to the aliens, but his bearing spoke of absolute authority. "This is Captain Tejo of the UES Titan's Shadow," the human said in perfect galactic standard language, requesting permission to dock and begin diplomatic discussions. Kethrall struggled to find his voice. "Granted. Bay 17 can accommodate your shuttle." "Thank you," Captain Tejo replied. "We'll send a diplomatic party shortly." The communication ended, leaving Kethrall staring at the black screen. Everything about this first contact was wrong. The humans weren't supposed to have ships like that. They weren't supposed to speak galactic languages fluently. They weren't supposed to sound like they were doing the Council a favor by showing up. 20 minutes later, Kethrall waited in the docking bay as a human shuttle approached. The small craft was sleek and efficient, its design far more advanced than the Council's intelligence reports had suggested. It docked with mechanical precision that spoke of extensive training and experience. The airlock cycled open and Captain Tejo emerged. He was tall for a human with dark hair and alert eyes that missed nothing. Behind him came 6 Marines in powered armor that made them look like mechanical giants. Their weapons were holstered but clearly visible. "Ambassador Kethrall," Captain Tejo said with a slight bow. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with us." "The pleasure is ours," Kethrall replied, though he no longer felt pleasure about anything. "Shall we proceed to the diplomatic chamber?" As they walked through the station's corridors, Kethrall noticed how the human soldiers moved. They didn't gawk at the alien architecture or advanced technology. Their eyes constantly scanned for threats, and they positioned themselves to protect their captain without blocking his movement. These were not primitive warriors seeing advanced civilization for the first time. These were professional soldiers who had trained for this exact situation. In the diplomatic chamber, Captain Tejo declined the offered seat and remained standing. His Marines positioned themselves around the room with practiced efficiency. "Ambassador," Tejo began, "we understand the Council wishes to discuss humanity's integration into galactic civilization." "Yes," Kethrall said, trying to regain control of the situation. "We have prepared a generous membership package that will provide your species with protection, technology, and guidance as you develop." He activated his presentation, showing images of Council worlds, trading vessels, and military fleets, the standard displays of power and wealth that usually impressed primitive species. Captain Tejo watched politely, then gestured to one of his Marines. The soldier projected a hologram of his own. It showed detailed schematics of Council military vessels, complete with weapon specifications, armor thickness, and tactical weaknesses. "We've studied your fleet composition," Tejo said calmly. "Impressive, but designed for controlling civilian populations rather than fighting determined opponents." Kethrall's mandibles clicked with shock. The information in the human hologram was classified at the highest levels. How could a primitive species have obtained such detailed intelligence? "We appreciate your offer of membership," Tejo continued, "but humanity prefers a different arrangement." "What kind of arrangement?" Kethrall asked weakly. "Trade agreements between equals, mutual defense pacts, technology sharing on a voluntary basis, the kind of relationships that sovereign species maintain with each other." The words hit Kethrall like physical blows. Sovereignty equals? These concepts had no place in Council integration procedures. "I'm afraid that's not how galactic civilization works," Kethrall said, trying to sound authoritative. "The Council maintains order through structured hierarchy. Newer species accept guidance from older, more experienced civilizations." Captain Tejo's expression didn't change, but something cold flickered in his eyes. "Ambassador, our species has a saying. When someone offers to help you while pointing a gun at your head, they're not really offering help." He gestured toward the viewing portal, where the Titan's shadow hung in space like a dark omen. "Humanity has been preparing for this meeting for a very long time," Tejo said. "We know about your integration procedures. We know about the mining rights, the military service requirements, and the permanent restrictions on technological development. We decline your generous offer." "You can't decline," Kethrall protested. "No species has ever refused Council membership." "Then we'll be the first," Tejo replied. "We're prepared to defend our independence if necessary." The human captain produced a data tablet and placed it on the diplomatic table. These are humanity's terms for peaceful coexistence. Review them and transmit your response to Earth Command within 72 hours. Without another word, Captain Tejo and his Marines left the chamber. Kethral stared at the tablet as if it might explode. In 3,000 years of Council dominance, no primitive species had ever dictated terms to galactic civilization. Through the viewing portal, he watched the human shuttle return to its massive mothership. The Titan's shadow remained in position near the station, its presence a constant reminder that the galaxy had just changed forever. Kethral activated his emergency communication system. The Council needed to know that their routine first contact had become something unprecedented and dangerous.